So I've got to do a video about this now, otherwise I'm going to spend all night thinking about it and I won't be able to get to sleep. So this is a video, of course, all about this weird normal dichotomy and how in society, normal people, or we're nice normal people, and those people over there, the weirdos, we don't like them. Those are weird and creepy and horrible. And I was only thinking this earlier today because about a month ago or so, some little cunt who I don't even know on Instagram messaged me out of the blue, like with some sort of horrible message, accusing me of being creepy and being a weirdo. I was like, I don't even know you, but you seem like a creepy weirdo or something, just from like looking at you. And like then I looked at his profile, and it was like this like little tubby like emo looking kid, and I was like, who the fuck are you to talk, right? And I hate this because this mentality, it seems to have even infected the minds of like good, like weird people. And like, can you imagine how fucking unbearable society would be if everyone were normal, and, like bland and like conventional? There'd be no flavour to life. There'd be no like interesting, quirky, new stuff going on. There'd be none of that. And, like the conventional, they'd hate it because there'd be no one to, like, hate. Well, no, there wouldn't be anyone to hate, but I mean, first of all, like, say if everyone were conventional, this is such a subjective category, it's almost meaningless anyway. I get into, like, the deeper nuances as to why it's totally meaningless. And it's this sort of thinking that gets to the heart of fascism. Say you were to identify the group of, like, all the weirdos in society, right? So it's like, have like a registry for weirdos, and we're going to get rid of all the weirdos. We're going to kill them, for instance. Say that were to happen. Anyone who dresses differently or wears odd clothes, or has long hair, or too many tattoos, or what have you. Identify the weirdos, get rid, right? Or anyone who acts funny or whatever, or anyone who you think is creepy personally, right? Identify them all, get rid of them. Like, now we've got this set of people called the normal, right? What do you think happens in that situation? Do you think there's group cohesiveness within the normal, like persists forever? Or does division start to exhibit itself between like the normal groups, like that some people are more normal now than others, right? And you just identified a new subgroup, a new minority, you're going to decide are weird and creepy. And that's what would happen. And this is really, really important stuff because this gets right to the heart of fascism. And, I suppose, yeah, like the political edge of it really is no different to what fascist dictatorships have done throughout history. And, the singling out, the identification of a certain group in society or certain set of groups in society you've identified as undesirables, and you're going to persecute them. And it's a majority against a minority influence, and it's that sort of it's this punching down of a bigger, larger, more powerful group against a smaller group, who the big, large, powerful group believe are acting to their detriment, and going to punch down and destroy, so that they can take all the small, less powerful group stuff and make themselves more powerful. However, what they fail to take into account almost always in this sort of groupthink mentality, this sort of herd pack mentality that they adopt, is that you take out a big group in society, minority or no, less powerful or no, society as a whole will lose. And you will make yourselves weaker because you lack important people in society. For instance, you take away the bohemians, right? Your artists and writers and intellectuals, professors and scientists, doctors, so on. As very often the intelligentsia that people like this will attack. You got your society. That's the backbone, isn't it? As one fellow student at UCU put it when he was talking about the invasion of the Syrian civil war. Like, oh yeah, attack the bourgeoisie of society. Like, that hasn't fucking happened before. Yeah, remove the backbone of society. like your middle classes, your doctors, lawyers, administrators, these sorts of people, engineers, educated university professors, teachers. Like, good luck with that. You know, have fun, all right. Like, gonna survive that fucking doctor. Fuck off. And like this sort of stuff. And like, you know, the middle, like these sorts of people, like, we don't want to attack workers at all. You know, anyone else like that. Like, recognise the importance of people who are in some more typically proletarian professions. Sure. I mean, I've been in those professions very often in my life. In fact, completely. I've never really been in like a white collar job, actually. You know, bartender, farm worker, sales rep. I was doing that for a little while, call centre working. Other than that, that is it, basically. In my sort of work history, I've set up a few businesses and I do comedy on the side, writing. But that doesn't pay anything. And, yeah, and, oh, God, I hate this people. Who's like, no, I don't want to go out with a weirdo. You see that on Tinder from time to time. It's like God, well, I don't want to go out with you then. Like, you must be so fucking unbearable to speak to. That's the problem. And, like, you're just, like, so uncurious, and you just want, like, one that looks, like, totally, like, you know, conventional and, like straight out of a fucking, like, box or something. Like, you know, you're the Barbie, you want your Ken. Is that it? Like, well, you don't want one in interesting clothes. You want one where, like, you know, smoothed over with hair gel, is it? And, like, you know, like a bit buff and tanned and tall enough, crucially, and looks like a total, like, gibbering cunt of a twat. And, like, if you were to talk to him, like, there'd probably be, like, a total personality vacuum and no possibility of any depth or, like, anything in discussion, because he knows fuck all about anything. Except, like, GQ magazine and clothes and cars. And, like people who are, like, real gearheads when it comes to cars, like, that's fair enough, fine. But, I mean, and, like, more to the point I'm trying to, like, unpack with this is, like, you get to know anyone well enough, you realise actually most people are weird on various levels to varying extents. Like, I'd say the majority of people, like, have a little eccentricity about them. And, like, we've almost made eccentricity in Britain probably the most eccentric country, at least in Europe, I think, if not the fucking world. We've almost made it taboo here, which makes no fucking sense at all, considering where we are, you know, and considering some of the fucking people here. And, like, we're a nation of weirdos, basically. I bump into people all the time. You know, they might look conventional on the outside, but you get them talking, and then they're like, oh, I play, like, a classical guitar to, like, a really high level, or, like, you know, they, something, you know, or they got a huge comic book collection, or they're obsessed about something or other, or they build huge, amazing worlds in Minecraft, and that's their little obsession. And I know exactly the person as a Dutch guy I met, but he actually wasn't all that conventional even. He's, like, dressed a bit conventionally, but, I mean, not really conventional as such. And, frankly, I dress fairly conventionally, but, like, you don't want to go out with a weirdo. Like, why do you want to go out with someone, like, how, like, it wasn't like, also, this is the other thing, like, you find a normal person who really is Mr. Normal, you know, that, well, this is nothing unusual about me, I'm just going about my daily life, I take the recommended daily allowance of or weekly allowance of alcohol, I don't smoke, I don't do anything bad, and I've got a reasonably car, not flashy, normal house, normal area, like, don't, you know, particularly read much, just watch a bit of telly, just normal stuff on telly. Like, you get into that sort of thing, like, too much, and you got no developed interests, you know, and you got nothing about you that makes you unique. It's actually deeply weird, and I've met a few people like this, and few people actually creep me out more than that sort of person, Like, I do like hanging out with like good weirdos, proper like cool weird people. You know, people who are obsessed with all sorts of random weird cool stuff. I've got my obsession. I've got like science and philosophy and like the occult a little bit. Well, the esoteric. Like I mess around with tarot cards and sort of thing. Religion and oh, comedy is a huge obsession of mine. I'm very interested in agriculture and geography and politics and economics and all sorts. Maths a lot, weirdly. Well, is that actually it? Like art? I don't know. I've got any like unusual, like weird hobbies. I paint. They're actually a little bit boring. I don't know, like yeah, but all sorts of stuff I'm interested in. Conspiracy theories, history, literature, the gamut really. But like not so much biology, a little bit psychology, I suppose. I don't know a hell of a lot about biology or chemistry. But yeah, I mean, I sort of like into collecting flowers now. I also want to develop botanical interests a bit more, you know, and it's really like a shaped bondage. But that's not like an intellectual pursuit, is it? That's just a fetish. But I mean, yeah, yeah. If you don't have quirks, eccentricity, almost everyone does. You know, I'm thinking of a number of people with tattoos. Right, they might dress quite conventionally, but you know, you've got a tattoo, that means something, and it is unconventional. Most people don't have them, so that's something. But yeah, I mean, people like film and into that like loads, and so is everyone really. And drugs, I love my drugs, and yeah, like if you got nothing about you that makes you interesting, and you can't like carry on conversations sort of with like a diverse array of people, and like good weirdos, I think are capable of doing that more often. We can talk to anyone. You know, I think I am a weird person. I've been called weird often enough, but it's this really dangerous, I think, conflation of weird with bad. Like, if you're conflating weird with that, you need to fucking stop doing that. You need to like really sort yourself out and really start looking a bit more carefully at people. And I said that sort of person was like, oh, I've got a bad feeling about this person. It's like, well, maybe like you shouldn't trust that so much and try to get to know people a bit better and not just make snap judgments about people like based on basically nothing, dare I say. And if like or like recognize also that certain people, I've met a few people like this in my time, like that yeah, they may come across as really quite weird, but half the time it's because they're incredibly neurotic and nervous, and they're probably insecure as hell on all sorts of levels. And it's like, well, it's like, oh, there's a bad energy about the sort of person. It's like, stop playing armchair psychologist. You're not any good at it. That's why you're not a psychologist. All right, just stop. And like the analysis of people based on like, I've seen people do this in real life. Like, oh, I don't like the look of his picture on a dating app. It's like, what is your problem? Like, really? Like, just like the way he looks or not? Like, in terms of his physical characteristics. Like, oh no, it's just like his expression. Like, he might just not take a good photo. Have you thought about that? Like, you haven't got to know the person. You haven't even met them. It's just a fucking photograph. What can you tell about someone from that? Nothing. Look, it's weird. I've got a weird vibe from the photo. Like, you're out of your mind. That's your problem if you think like that. Like, it's crazy. And like, you're probably like crazily, frankly, kind of narcissistic and arrogant and drastically overestimating how insightful you are when it comes to estimating a person's character. Like, because if you think you can do it from like a scrap of like evidence, which isn't even evidence really, I suspect, in terms of estimating character and personality from like Tinder dating profiles, like, like if you believe you can peer into someone's psyche like that, like through this minute window of a few pictures and a little bit of text, like you're a crazy person. That's all you are. Like you're deranged almost. It's, you know, no, to get to know people and to like estimate the character, I would first like say judge a person not by their how they come across, but by their deeds more like. And not even like necessarily the things they say, and like if you like judge a person like some of the stuff they say when they're joking, is like again you're gonna go down a blind alley of believing that someone's a bad person. Don't know someone, they're weird, isn't it? Or you're inexcusably dull, like simpering, not really like socially adroit enough or intelligent enough, intellectually or emotionally. I'd say you don't have a well developed enough moral sense. You lack the strength of character to be able to engage people and put yourself on a level with other people such that you can make them feel comfortable. That's probably more like what's going on there. And you're just writing off, frankly, your own lack of social adroitness, integrity, morals, emotional intelligence, and you're ignoring your own narcissism and arrogance, and essentially scapegoating the person who is probably quite a bit uneasy and awkward in your presence and doesn't know quite what to say, and putting the blame on them for your own shortcomings, which is, of course, like very noble and decent of you, obviously, and is sort of basically what one would expect from someone with deficiencies like that. And you know, you get like in the workplace, this is played out quite a lot. Like, oh, like, you know, you get like the middle aged of certain type, don't you? Like, who's the one? Like, who's the weakest one here who can sort of exploit or scapegoat for our shortcomings? And you know, we'll gang up on like one or two of them who like seem like weird, freaky types of social outcasts. And I sincerely believe, because I went through all of my education being like one of the weirdos at school, like in a little gang group of other like frankly weirdish people, they're like, you know, or like not like way out of the social loop, no, but like not in the stream with the alphas and the jocks and the popular ones, right? But like, you know, almost the schools are on the fringes of the hinterlands of school society, then sort of ending up sort of in the weirdo group where we all smoke weed together, and the last year or so was really fun, and like it also like got better towards the end for that reason. And then at Dauncey's new school, like straight away in the back room club with the beta males, like, and yeah, like at least I knew my place, you know, it was among the betas. I wasn't trying to like curry favour with the jocks. Like one person in particular whose place was in the back room, was like trying to be a social butterfly and flip between them, and like try to ingratiate himself with the alpha group. Like, you're not that. You're a fucking beta. You can't take it. But I mean, yeah, like the ways in which people can be diverse in society is so unbelievably large. The probability of someone being exactly average or typical in any given respect or regard is zero. Basically, it couldn't happen. There must be, if there is something like what. And also, by the way, this is the other thing. If you are just Mr. Normal, Mr. Nice and Normal, and so on, and you're, I'm just a normal guy, just normal in my life, and you've got nothing about you that's unique and interesting, well, then I'm rather deeply suspicious of you. That's the other bit. And I found this impenetrable veneer of normality really incredibly unsettling. And if I was presented with a typical norm, and it's just so typical, and I couldn't penetrate that normality to get to the interesting stuff about them, within a given time frame, I would begin worrying, and then they'd start to creep me out. But you get some people, they just make snap judgments, and they don't do that. They don't entertain or engage with someone enough to be able to do that. And it's a horrible, it's a gross oversimplification of how to estimate people and how to categorize people. And we have categories of people in terms of things like background and ethnicity and religious orientation or sexual orientation or interest, or various different categories, and sensitivities that people have that we ought to be aware of on all sorts of levels. And those are incredibly diverse. Added into that is a world of other stuff in terms of things like aren't protected characteristics, like social class, education level, occupation. Those carry with them, again, different sensitivities. And how can someone who whose profession is, say, to make very fine shoes, and that's their big interest in life, do you think that's exactly a normal person? And this is really the fundamental point about weirdness. Why are they not a normal person? They're a shoemaker. They make shoes. That's normal, sure. It's normal, is it? How many people do you actually know who make shoes? I bet in the country, in the UK, there are probably fewer than 5,000 people, fewer than 10,000 people who do that for a living. I'd be willing to bet. Of that order anyway, out of 50 million people of working age in the UK or so. So you meet someone who makes shoes for a living, actually quite unusual. Do you see what I mean? It's not by any means an everyday profession. And you get piano tuners out there as well, and people who do weird, odd, interesting jobs, or even people who do jobs that frankly not many other people do. Probably the most abundant sort of work is something like being a waitress or a waiter, which I've done as well, bartending. Those are very, very abundant jobs. Loads of people do that, But I mean, I suspect very few people who actually do those jobs, they're intending to do that long term. A few guys, who they're all about bartending, they'll just go straight into bartending at very swanky bars and learning all about cocktails and end up like a whiskey sommelier or something like that. And and they want to do that as a profession, right? And it's different on that level. And again, you get someone who's a whiskey sommelier, how many people do you know who do that? Not very many people at all do that. Do you see what I mean? And bartending really for most people is not the end of the line as a career. I don't think many people actually end up bartenders for their entire lives. A big ambition would probably be to own a bar or something. Do you know what I mean? And it's weird, normal, it on a level, these categories very, very limited in terms of their meaning at all. So someone as a pejorative, weird, do you know the first thing about them? Secondly, why is weirdness not valued? If someone does something niche, unusual, not typical, but nonetheless possibly very important. Thirdly, have you fail to recognise that you in yourself might be quite weird? Or are you just totally normal? And what the hell do you mean by that? You know, you watch all the standard TV shows that everyone watches, right? You're going to glibly accuse everyone of watching the same things you watch, while acknowledging the existence of weirdos and weird people. I swear it's got worse, actually, and I know a comedian who brings this up on stage, a guy called Will Hodgson. He's been on Russell Howard's Good News, and he brought up this point that we live in a post-Savile world, and that Jimmy Savile sort of ruined eccentricity for everyone in Britain, and now we're not allowed to be weird at all. We're going to be like straight-laced, normal, square, frankly, conventional, and yeah, like that. I think a lot of people out there, like, they're erroneously struggling to be normal and not to be themselves and to be interested in what they're genuinely interested in. And I think if you get too far down that rabbit hole, this is probably it, isn't it? You start enforcing that mentality socially on other people, because when it like comes down to it, beneath whatever veneer you've managed to cultivate for yourself that seems desirable to others, you're a vacuum of anything interesting and genuine interest. And you're just going on punishing people for difference from what you perceive to be, or what is in fact the conventional mentality adopted by the larger social group. And you fail to see that the contributions made by unorthodox individuals, weird people, to society that you rely on pretty much a daily basis, and that is definite that you do. You know, the work of Isaac Newton is stuff we're still benefiting from, every single one of us. He was rather odd. The likes of Einstein, a little unusual as a person. And examples like these sorts of people throughout history, loads of them, loads and loads and loads. So, punishing the weird, but perceived difference, like perceived difference also. You probably don't even know, you probably know fuck all about them. You probably haven't even spoken to them, because like they're weird by reputation for one reason or another, and therefore you're not going to speak to them and actually find out for yourself. It just takes like on trust from someone else and like believe hearsay, or you just judge them in the instant by looking at them, and you fail to acknowledge that there might be all sorts of idiosyncrasies and nuances to that and subtleties to their personality, and you couldn't appreciate that anyway if you were to attempt to do that, because to be able to appreciate those sort of things takes kind of effort and training and consideration, openness, compassion, and a level-headed attitude, a degree of fearlessness also, a lot of rationality, and a lot of experience also with engaging and talking with a variety of different people and different types of people, if people come in types at all, So, right. Yeah, this weird normal dichotomy. It is the essence of fascism. Anyone who tries to enforce that mentality is hence a fascist, in character or in fact, frankly. And, weird, like, gaining associations with all sorts of unsavory characteristics in general. And this has happened before. This has happened before in history. It happened in the 1930s in Germany. Yeah, it did. Like Jews, or, eating people's children, stealing their children, and so on. Gay people had a certain connotation back then. They sort of shed in more recent decades, with, a certain form of abuse towards the very young. And, and it's weird, that means something else, right? More like, that's very, very unoriginal. It's a bit knee-jerk. So just think about that next time you offhandedly use the term weird as a pejorative term. So thank you very much. I love you lots if you're weird and good. And if you're normal and good also, or more conventional and good, and you don't consider weirdos as lower than you are. Thank you for watching. Bye bye. Love you lots.